Welcome to the latest episode of this week's Acca, sponsored by Sky Bet Acca Freeze. I'm Tom and joined by Jake and Jimmy, as ever, to deliver our selections. It is the FA Cup weekend, so we do lose the majority of the games in League One and League Two, but there is still plenty of football to discuss as we make our picks in the usual manner. As ever, we'd like to know your thoughts in the comments, or reach out to us via Sporting Life Football on various social media channels. And as ever, please remember to keep it fun. Never bet more than you can afford. This podcast is 18 plus. Please gamble responsibly. We went into the midweek Acca a 12-1 fourfold, and the one team I think we were the most confident on, Blackpool. They went 1-0 down in the first half. Not a problem. They've got plenty of time to salvage this. 1-1. Thought, great, they can kick on here. 2-1 down, they lost to Northampton, a side who never win away. I think it was Northampton, wasn't it?
That was the first win in...
And they lost. Is that the perfect summary of any Acca-type outcome ever? You know, your typical Acca buster. It definitely felt like that, didn't it? Talk us through last week's one, because the other three selections delivered.
Yeah, typical of what is about that. And do you know when Rhodes equalised 25 minutes ago, I was thinking, right, this is it.
It's on.
Yeah. It's on. But it just didn't work out like that. But it does always seem to be the way with Acca. The shortest price is the one that always lets you down. The banker.
Yeah, and...
the one that couldn't lose.
We were right. we said on the pod, didn't we, that the price wasn't correct and they would go off a lot shorter, and they did. They went off hell of a lot shorter. In fact, most of the selections did, apart from Wigan, which we discussed before.
Wigan drifted weirdly.
Weird. Went off. We put them up at 6 to 5-ish on the pod, and they went off at just a bigger than 6 to 4. So it's a huge drift against them, and then they won the most comfortably, which kind of goes with what you were saying. Just typical Acca.
Yeah, Coventry, the other three won 2-0, didn't they? Coventry won 1-0, Wigan won 3-0.
Barrow hosed.
Barrow quite comfortably beat Walsall 2-0, and it was just Blackpool, but plenty of time to make amends.
Yeah.
Before we crack on, it is the FA Cup weekend, as I said there. How did you find the slate this week? Tricky.
Yeah, I was cursing the 3 p.m. rule because I thought there's so many cracking games and they're all on TV. So I've had to leave them out. But I like the FA Cup. I think there's scope to make some money, get on some value on side, particularly in these early rounds where people might not necessarily be as interested, might not look as in depth. But if you scratch the surface a little bit, there's value to be had.
3 games in the Premier League, a whole National League slate as well. Last time the Acca won, we had National League picks because of the slate that we were dealt with.
I didn't delve into National League or Scottish leagues or anything. I've found enough.
Yeah, your
that
random Scottish Highlands League or whatever it was.
I cannot believe you didn't mention that.
They both won as well, by the way.
They did, yeah. I'm just shocked that this is the first I'm hearing about it from you.
I'm not one to brag, Jim Rod, you see. So,
is that the old, Jim from the US office? Do we kind of just awkwardly look at the camera there as a...
But yeah, no, I've not drifted away from the FA Cup, Championship, and maybe a Premier League pick. Yeah, it's always interesting this time of year. You do get a few big mismatches in terms of league disparity in the FA Cup, which obviously means quite a lot of short prices. And then you do get occasional big prices that just jump off the page to you as being completely wrong. And I'm sure we'll discuss a few of those. Whether we'll put them in the Acca or not remains to be seen. But yeah, it was an interesting slate, to say the least.
Kick things off with this. You can kick things off with this potential Premier League shout. I'm intrigued by this because there are 3 games at 3 p.m, 3 home teams, all odds on. One of them, I'm not too sure on. I want to hear this potential Premier League pick then, because I didn't even... I looked and went, no, I'm not interested this week, so sell it to me.
It is Brentford.
Yeah, I thought it might be Brentford, to be
home
fair,
to Luton. They've been really strong at home ever since promotion, really, Brentford. But since the start of last season, they've won 12, drawn 10 and lost just 4 of their 26 home games, so a really, really strong record. Results this season haven't been overly great. Lost twice, won twice, drawn 3 times. The underlying process is solid, though. 9th best home team based on expected goals data. And Luton are the worst travellers in the league based on expected goals. They've conceded 2.5 expected goals against per game this season. Won once, which obviously came at Everton. I think Everton had 3 XG or something like that in that game, so they were unfortunate to get beaten. They've drawn once away and they've lost 5 times. I think this is a good spot for Brentford to bounce back from the Arsenal defeat. They've got a couple of players coming back to fitness as well to strengthen there. And I know Luton will be on a bit of a high after beating Crystal Palace, but I thought Brentford deserved to be a little bit shorter than 1-2, which may sound daft because it is a short price, but we're talking about a top half Premier League team in Brentford against a team that were heavy odds on to be relegated, and I still think that should be the case. So, yeah, I want to throw them in there as a short price to kick us off.
I'm not against adding anyone from the Premier League in.
Top half?
Just outside, aren't they, I think?
They're just outside, yeah.
So they're not top half.
But they were last season, and I think they'll finish in the top half this season.
If we were going to add one from the Premier League, to be fair, it was Brentford that I kind of looked at. And then the thing that took me back a little bit was their home form wasn't as good as I thought it would be. The one thing I do know about Brentford is potentially this is the case for missing Ivan Toney. I think they're top for big chances missed in the division this season. In terms of those high-quality chances they're making and not converting. Will that balance out? I don't know. Will it balance out when Toney comes back? And if he stays, and there's a lot of question marks around that, I think it's probably more of an issue when you're playing the other teams that you want to compete for a top half finish and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think
maybe not as much against Luton, who results have gone as you'd expect. And to be fair to them, they're
doing all right.
They're overperforming on what I think a lot of people would have thought at this point.
Well, what I would say about this is, in terms of styles, like Luton create most of the chances from set pieces. Brentford are a very strong team from set pieces, so they can kind of nullify them there and then. And Luton have done all the best work at home. I know they've won once away from home, but their underlying process when playing at home is actually really good. They're creating more chances than they're conceding on an average basis. When they travel, it's the complete opposite. And I know they're not travelling far, just out to Brentford, but I think that this is it's a bad spot for them. I really do like Brentford to get 3 points.
No, I don't. Don't one bit. I don't understand taking on Luton in an Acca for the simple fact of that they're a minnow in the Premier League, and that's no disrespect to them. In terms of how the bookies rate them, and I just feel like this campaign on the whole, they're playing. It doesn't sound right to say, but they're playing with a sense of freedom, knowing that nothing is expected of them. And you've leaned on data there. Shock. But I don't think Luton operate within the parameters of data in the sense that you can draw on it to draw conclusions about how they're playing, because you look at the way they play and how they scrapped for that point against Palace, and they're going to do that every week. So
Beat Palace.
Beat them, yeah.
For those 3 points, sorry.
Yeah, carry on.
For those points against Palace, and Roy Hodgson credited the spirit after the game, and you have to agree, and when you watch them every week, they're going to invite pressure, they're going to invite shots, and with that, they're going to invite high XG totals. But in terms of the expected passion stuff and stuff like that,
God, he's gone there.
Blocks and spirit, and
Expected
knowing
blocks,
where they rank within
spirit.
the league and in comparison to the other teams works in their favour in the sense that they scrap for everything. So I'm not going to look at XG when I'm looking at Luton, and I'm not going to back against them, although you make a great case about them being away from home because lost 5 of 6 games, and I get that. But at 1-2 for a side in Brentford who are great, and I agree with you, they probably are going to be a top half team, but I just don't want to have a 1 of 5 teams, 1-2 in the Premier League against an absolute wild card.
Yeah, I'm iffy on it. I am iffy on it. That's why I said, like, if we were to pick...
He sold you unexpected passions, didn't he?
Yeah, that's all I care about. I think that, as I say, that looking at the Premier League, I didn't really like any of it, but if we were forced to take one of them, you'd take Brentford at home to Luton, I think, over, Arsenal are too short. Burnley, Sheffield United.
Oh, well.
Did you want to talk about that game?
Can I shock you?
I absolutely no chance from the off. Are we having any result from this game in the Acca? It's 2 horrendous teams trying to play
El
football.
Tragico.
There is going to be
I wondered what
trading standards are going to get involved in this game. There's going to be some trade description act with this being labelled a Premier League game.
Yeah.
Because it is technically in quality, no. But Jim Rod, on that note, talk to me about this game if you want to try and pitch something to maybe someone who wants it on a long list or a...
You there. No, the price of my beloved confused me a little bit.
Come on, you're not having Sheffield United.
We're on the drift as well, so it's bad punting in that sense, but there's...
This is a hell of a start.
After a strong start, but stick with me, there's like a pool of doom in the Premier League, and I put Luton, I'm sorry to say, in that. Everton are now.
It, aren't they?
Hold on.
Yeah, Everton are now as well.
So
with that
you don't want to back a team against the pool of doom Luton?
It's price play.
Right.
There's the pool of doom: Everton, Burnley, Luton, and United. I don't really want to include Luton in that, but I'm going to have to. And there's a genuine sense at each of these clubs in the terraces, anyway, that if you can beat those around you, such is the lack of quality of the foot of the division. If you can beat those teams around you, you might have a chance of staying up. Genuinely, and it's just ridiculous given how far below the standard of the rest of the division those four teams are. Everton and Luton, asterisks next to those, but it's a must-win for both sides. And I'd like to take you back to the 5-2 at Bramall Lane. Sheffield United absolutely battered Burnley.
Did you have Sander Berge?
And
did you have Iliman and Jai?
Well, if you'd let me just get a word in edgeways. My next point was, I know Sander Berg's gone to Burnley. Illiman and Dye stand up for him as well, but that performance alone had nothing to do with those two. Sander Berg never reached his full potential at United, and that game was all about Sheffield United's set-piece dominance. 28 shots, 20 of those come from set-piece. 3 or 4 of the goals come from dead ball situations as well. And the majority of both sides, Sander Berg excluded, the core of both sides are pretty similar. And I think Sheffield United will draw great confidence from that performance. And you may ask me about the reverse. Well, Wes Foderingham was sent off within the first sort of half. United went on to lose 2-0. In context of the season as well, there was little to play for. I think Burnley had already won the title. United had gone pretty far clear of second. So I just was a little bit confused when I saw the price. United are drifting, which is pretty silly to try and get them on side, but I thought these two would be much closer matched, and for that reason, price-wise, Sheffield United.
Well, I can't get involved with either team.
No. I was just going to ask Jim.
But it is a fascinating one to include, though, and keep in, because someone somewhere might want a big one. They might want to...
I've got plenty of big ones today.
Yeah, but it's one of those, so you go 1-0 up, that's it, freeze that, you've got an 18-5 selection and that, fine. But... Yeah.
No, I kind of agree with you, Jim, in the sense that the value is with Sheffield United in that.
Yeah.
Burnley are way too short. You can't be backing Burnley at that price.
That's the only reason I included it, because even though I do support United and I've got my rose-tinted glasses on, I was just confused to see Burnley a shade of odds on.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put that much between these two sides this season.
What happened last time you backed Sheffield United?
8-0 to the Newcastle boys.
This is not going to be 8-0 to Burnley. We can tell you that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we'd be surprised. And let's we've talked for about 10 minutes here, and we've not got any closer to putting a selection in.
Brentford no go, yeah?
Nah.
Well, Duff, man, let's go to you, because I don't think many of mine are going to get in this week.
Thanks for getting stable. Championship. I had to play this off like I hadn't looked at this game because I don't want to give anything away in the office beforehand. Swansea, even money to beat Huddersfield. We're all on board with this.
We guessed it, didn't we, in the
office? I saw Swansea last night at Ellen Road. Leeds won 3-1. Swansea, decent team, actually. To be fair to them, I think they're performing better than, or they look a lot better than maybe their position is. Started to pick up some results after what was kind of a slow start, as you'd expect on the Duff. But then I was looking at the home results particularly. They drew with a good Hull side, drew with Sunderland, but they missed a penalty, had a man sent off in the first half. 1-0 loss to Watford. Looked back at that game, pretty even game. Beaten by Leicester, wins over Norwich and Sheffield Wednesday, before that. To me, I just think this is probably one of the standout kind of prices in the Championship. And then last night, we're recording this on Thursday for reference, Huddersfield did beat Sunderland. Bit of a weird result, that, because it was 1-1 at half-time. Sunderland then started the second half really well, had some good chances to score. Huddersfield somehow get a second, and then Sunderland just can't. Then, obviously, as you expect, trying to attack. Can't quite get that second goal to equalise. And for me, yeah, Swansea to beat Huddersfield would be my opening pick on this one. It looks a nice even money starting point that we can kick on from there. And also the stat I did like, in a chaotic start at Ellen Road where Dan James scored 30 seconds in, it was ruled out for offside. Swansea go up the other end and a lovely chipped finish 30 seconds after that put them ahead. 11th time this season Swansea have scored first in 18 games when they struck, so they are scoring the first goal a lot of times. And again, we talk about, freezing and things like that. Swansea, to me, yeah, I really like this to be an opening point because the standout kind of games in the Championship and the shorter prices, I thought they'd maybe be drifting into odds on here.
Yeah, I think they might do by
I'm all on
kickoff.
board with this.
When you're talking about freezing, you're talking about Acca freezing, how
Yes.
cold it is outside, right?
It was freezing last night, let me
was
tell you.
cold.
On brand with the Acca freeze. It was cold.
yeah.
But yeah, we talk about that. A team goes ahead, you can freeze it, you don't have to worry about that one. If you're thinking of Swansea, again, 11 times in 18 they've scored first this season. But I just think they'll win the game over 90 anyway.
I like it. I had it down.
Huddersfield are terrible.
They're a bad side. They've conceded 1.7 XG per away game this season, so they shows you they give up chances when travelling. And yeah, they did beat Sunderland last time out. As you said, rode the luck a little bit. I know the game state plays into it, but Sunderland did create much better chances than they did and probably should have scored a couple more. My only kind of... I've not watched Huddersfield since Darren Moore's got in there, but obviously watched him quite a lot when he was at Wednesday manager. And in League One, Wednesday had probably the best squad in the division, and the football was turgid for most of the time. There's a lot of recycling possession, a lot of direct football, a lot of getting crosses in, a lot of set-piece goals. I do just wonder if it's similar for Huddersfield. How will Swansea deal with that? Having watched Swansea yesterday.
Yeah, the set-piece issues, they were there.
Yeah.
Both centre-backs for Leeds had good chances to score. One was saved, one was kind of half cleared off the line.
See, that's probably enough to kind of put me off.
Yep.
But then equally, but then you're thinking corners fundamentally. And Luke Williams at Notts County, there was a viral clip of him talking about corners, and it's a corner as long as we don't turn the ball over. Because he's right, low percentage chances. If you're basing it on corners and stuff like that, the world football average of a corner going in and then your big man heading it, net go bulges, everyone goes mad, is 3%. 3% is the chance of that happening.
I think that should be a phrase for when people score now. Net goes bulges.
Net go, hits the net, everyone goes wild. It's
Net
3%.
goes bulges.
And then are Huddersfield going to get enough set-piece opportunities you can play for it? But in the momentum of the game and the balance of the game, are they going to get enough chances to score from set-pieces anyway? I know one is all you need, but...
I glanced at this and there was just enough to put me off. Moore's got, I think he's took charge of 11 games, picked up results in 7 of those, and you look at the teams they've come against: Coventry, Ipswich, Wednesday. Yeah, we can ignore that one.
It's not a game of football.
Watford, Southampton, and then there's Sunderland and QPR again, a team you can know. But apart from thrashings against Leeds, Cardiff and Birmingham, only managed 11 games. The margins in the games against the better sides have been quite tight.
Yeah.
How many of those are at home, though?
Not all of them. Sunderland, Stadium of Light, Coventry
Which they should have lost, really, if Sunderland were a bit more clinical. Southampton.
They drew at the mighty Wednesday.
Home. Wednesday, yeah,
Lost
terrible
it all.
team. Draw away there. Ipswich was at home. They go to Leeds, top team there, 4-0 up, down at half-time. The only reason it wasn't anymore was because that's just how football works. Any team is so far ahead at half-time, it's a bit like Mercy kicks in. This isn't at John Smith's. This is on the road against a team, I think, who are better than their position in the table.
I think just to kind of back Duffman up a little bit, leaning towards him, Swansea went on that little mini run, didn't they, through October, end of September, October, where they put 3 or 4 wins together. Then the fixture list since then has been quite tough. Like, they played Leicester, they played Sunderland, Ipswich, Hull, Leeds, beat Blackburn away, and lost at home to Watford, who were kind of just a bit of a odd team to get a gauge on. So they've had a tough schedule, which is probably why the actual results don't look as promising as well.
They played 8 of the top 9, yeah. 6 of those have been away.
So that can explain where they are in the league table, and potentially against the teams that are around them and below them currently is where they pick up the results. See, I'm leaning more towards, like I said, I had it down. I just wanted to raise the style point, that the contrasting styles might be interesting.
Yeah, I was thinking, though, that when I was looking at Argyle, that... sorry, not Argyle, I think Swansea.
Oh, have you given away one?
No, it's because I was looking at the table of which they beat Plymouth, they beat Millwall, and they beat Sheffield Wednesday. It is fundamentally that against those teams at the bottom, that
they do a job.
They're basically their slower, more intricate style of play basically separates them from those at the bottom. Yeah. And yeah, I think this probably will go off shorter. It probably should be shorter, I think.
I think put them in.
Yeah, you convinced me.
Yeah, happy? We've chatted a lot there, and this first section is really long, but we have dismissed a fair amount, so I think we will rattle on through.
Hopefully.
The rest of our selections, but we're all happy. That's the first one. First pick, then, of this week's Acca, we're taking Swansea for a home win over Huddersfield.
One thing we've all got in common is having that one leg of an Acca let us down. From spending your winnings in your head to cursing that last-minute equaliser that broke your heart. But it doesn't have to be that way. Acca Freeze from Sky Bet gives you the power to freeze a winning score early. Even if that team goes on to lose, Sky Bet will settle it as a winner. It's time to take action. It's time to Acca freeze and end the game your way. Visit skybet.com for full terms and conditions.
We spoke a lot about bad teams there, actually. And my very easy quiz question for the week, just to keep your brains going as going on. I said I didn't have one, but I was thinking beforehand, actually, who are the bad teams in the divisions? We all know Reading have the record high in the points tally in the Sky Bet Championship with 106, don't we? I want you to tell me who holds the record for the lowest ever points tally.
At the end of the season,
in the
it'll be
Sky Bet
Sheffield Wednesday.
Championship. Well, the total is 23 points.
Oh,
it's the lowest ever.
Oh, yeah.
Sheffield Wednesday are on course for 18, by the way. They carry on going the way they are. So not only they're going to smash it if it goes, but the quiz question I want you to answer, just to keep your brains going and keep, focused and stuff like that throughout. Who holds the record for the lowest ever points tally in the Sky Bet Championship? Your first close, they had 3 managers that season where it all went wrong. So I want the club and the season, if maybe you could get it, but the club will do. Back to the Acca then, we have Swansea for a home win over Huddersfield. A lot of dismissing and no's early on and what teams we don't want. Give me a team we can include then. We've got an even money shout to start things off.
Yeah.
Got a bit of wiggle room, haven't we, really, to add a few in? So give me one we can all get behind.
I'm going to put up one that's around the even money mark as well. Stevenage in the FA Cup against Port Vale. They are at home. Stevenage are flying at the moment. They've lost just once in 10 in the league. They've won 4 of the last 5. And Port Vale are the exact opposite. They're winless in the last 10 in the league. They've lost 7 of those, and I think this price should be a hell of a lot shorter. And this screams a kind of a tie that Stevenage would, especially given the league position and the pre-season expectations, and they're well punching above their weight. This screams of a tie where Stevenage will take this very seriously to try and get through to the 3rd round and potentially get a big draw in the following round. And Port Vale, and they're looking over their shoulders all of a sudden after being very hot to start the season. So I quite like that price. I think I was very surprised to see that price.
Yeah, this is a game I did look at. My only reservations was Stevenage made some changes for the last game, which was that just chaotic 4-3 win over Tranmere. But then is it because they were playing Tranmere at home and they felt a bit more flexibility? It is now the 2nd round. It is another team that are much closer to them than Tranmere. And obviously last season they beat Villa, didn't they, at Villa Park in the 3rd round. So there's a lot of incentive there to get through. Looks a bit big, this Stevenage price.
Yeah, get him in.
Sweet.
Happy enough. Genuinely, that is it. Do you want to add anything else to this, or are we done?
You just love Steve Evans, don't you?
Oh, I love him. Yeah, get him in.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That was the easiest pick ever, because I'm on board with it. I'm fine with that.
I'm on board with it.
Absolutely happy with that. There you go. The double at the moment, then, is just above 2.6 to 1.
Lovely.
So we've got a nice double so far. Nice and easy, then. The second selection this week's Acca. We're taking Stevenage in the FA Cup to beat Port Vale. We'll take a quick break very shortly. Instead, FA Cup. Jim Rod, you love it. Can you give us a third one that we can all get behind as quickly as Stevenage and we were one over there?
Don't see Alfred.
That's illegal.
More ways
Do you want it FA Cup?
Yeah. Well, if you've got an FA Cup one, give me an FA Cup
I've
one.
got options from all over the gaff. Yeah, FA Cup Crewe 21-10 to beat Bristol Rovers.
Yeah, I was intrigued by this one, actually.
Yep. Well, let me tantalise you some more, Duff, man. It's a thick boy in terms of price. Bristol Rovers.
What a phrase.
That is good.
Thick boy. They got, they emphatically got past a potential banana skin in the last round, beating Whitby 7-2. They heavily rotated, and I'm slightly worried if they don't pay Crewe the respect they deserve, they'll suffer the same fate as fellow League One side and anti-post favourites Derby, because Crewe put 5 past a full-strength Rams side. Rams went really strong in both of those games. They are 5th in League 2, and amongst a cluster of teams within 1 point of each other, really tight at the top of League 2. Amongst those teams is Wrexham. Amongst those teams is Wrexham and Notts County, 2 sides that pipped Chesterfield from promotion from the National League. Now, this is a bit of a weird explanation, but I think it's a good way of indicating why I think Crewe's price is value. So stay with me. Now, Chesterfield of the National League, they play Leyton Orient in League 1 on 22 points.
Yep.
Crewe League 2 on the same points as Wrexham and Notts County, who came up from the National League. So pretty similar performance level to Chesterfield. in a roundabout way. They play Bristol Rovers, League One, 24 points, so only 2 points better off than Leyton Orient, Chesterfield's opposition. Now, Chesney was 6-4 this morning. They've drifted massively, which kind of poo-poos my whole argument. But Chesterfield are shorter than Crewe, basically, and they're both playing similar opposition. I'd rank them both similarly in terms of performance level this season. So, suggests to me that there's juice in that Crewe price, and I am a bit worried about how Bristol Rovers are going to approach it.
I like it. As cup games, I like it. My niggling doubt is that there is a division apart from them. That's the only thing that gets me. If it was the other way around, probably Bristol Rovers were at home, probably have bigger doubts. I don't hate it. This again, like I said, when I was looking at FA Cup games, it was a price that did jump out to me. Well, I would say, though, it's such a big price that the treble would just go shy of 10-1, which is quite good. But I do like having it as a pick that we can revisit and leaning towards including.
Back me up here, Jake.
I've got the same down. And you know what? I've got the exact same explanation around the whole chat. No, I haven't really. I mean, if you just look at raw form, I mean, Bristol Rovers have lost 5 of the 10 away games this season in the league. They've lost at Cambridge and Burton, who sit 18th and 17th in League Two, which is not too many places, but, in front of Crewe, who obviously sit 5th in League Two. And like you said, they beat Derby. The home form's sensational. They've only lost to Stockport in the league this season, the runaway lead. And overall this season, all competitions, EFL Trophy, whatever it's called nowadays, EFL Cup, FA Cup, they've won 8, drawn 3 and lost 2 at home, have Crewe. So they're a really strong home side. And I was surprised to see this the wrong side of 2-1, really, on odds checker. I was expecting it to be maybe closer to 15-8 kind of mark, maybe even a bit shorter than that.
We always seem to... I've been on the receiving end of a lot of it, actually, where we seem to poo-poo big prices for no other reason than the fact that they're a big price. But I'm glad that you're agreeing with me that, yes, they're a big price, but I don't see no reason why they're such a big price. I genuinely, in my head, I thought they would be around 6-4 for this game.
I can get on board with that, to be honest.
Yes, yes. A big price selection.
It's a shame it's not going in, but you know what? Let's do it. I think if we're all... There's no point going, the price. We all like it.
Yeah.
I didn't have it written down in my notes, but I definitely was a game that I looked at and thought, if we talk FA Cup and we need it, I'm happy to go with Crewe.
Yeah.
Because it's a team in form against a mid-table team in the division above.
We are guessing, but the way in which they approached the game against Derby would suggest that Crewe is taking this seriously.
Oh, yeah.
Which they should take it.
You've got to at some point, regardless if you're in a promotion race, you just need to keep momentum going, don't you?
Yeah.
Particularly at this point in the season. There is no point changing everything up just to go, let's get out of this competition. It's one game every other month, the FA Cup. And when you get the latter stages, it gets obviously more frequent. At the moment, you're playing this. You won't play in the FA Cup again for another 5-6 weeks. So...
Yeah.
Yes.
Why would you stop any momentum?
What a point that is about maintaining momentum, because there's a case that Stockport lost theirs when they lost the JTP Trophy game against Bolton, because including that game, they've only won one of the last 4. Stockport on a massive winning streak, at that time. So yeah, I'm with you there, and I think Crewe will look to maintain that. The form. Let's have them
as the third selection here. This gives us huge wiggle room as well, just to play it safer with some shorter prices on this.
I don't know if this is like how much we'd read into it, but Crewe don't play again until the following Saturday. Bristol Rovers have a midweek game in the EFL Trophy, and they're at the quarter-final stage. Is it last 16, something like that? So they're into the knockout rounds of that competition, where obviously you do get to play at Wembley. So I wonder if they're going to have more games to think about, and they might rotate ahead of that. You just don't know. But I think the fact that Crewe have not got a game until the following week means that they will go full strength. We can pretty much guarantee they're not going to rest.
Let's do it.
So let's throw them in.
Third selection then in this week's Acca, joining Swansea to beat Huddersfield and Stevenage to beat Port Vale. It's another FA Cup clash. We're taking Crewe, surely the biggest price team we've had on this week's Acca so far this season, do we reckon? Around that 2-1 marker for a home win against Bristol Rovers. We'll take a short break now, but while you are watching the lovely Joe Townsend, who will return to the podcast very soon, tell you all about the benefits of Acca Freeze, my quiz question of the episode was who holds the record for the lowest ever points tally in the Sky Bet Championship. I've told you they had 3 managers that season. And another clue, because I like to keep it a bit vague before we specify in late on, they found themselves relegated that season on April the 1st.
Nice.
A long time they were relegated.
Can I ask a question about
Oh,
it?
go on.
Did they have any points deducted that season?
No.
Oh. So is it
Another one.
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware, I don't
That was a
think
free clue.
As far as I'm aware, I don't think they did. But there's your clues for this one. We'll be back picking our other selections for this week's Acca very shortly. Sky Bet Championship, we've got Swansea to beat Huddersfield, and in the FA Cup, we've got Stevenage to beat Port Vale, we've got Crewe to beat Bristol Rovers. We have 3 home teams. I'm going to chuck you another one from the National League.
Oh.
A team we spoke about the last time we included them, the last time the Acca won. Let's talk Wealdstone.
Yeah.
And their torrid away form. They actually haven't got too long of a trip. An hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on traffic this week, takes them to Southend. Southend are 4-9 to win this. You mentioned points deductions just there on our quiz question there. Without a points deduction, Southend would be sat 7th in the National League table. 3rd best home team in the division. 8-0-2 record, so 8 of their 10 games at home have ended in victory. Wealdstone have still lost 8 of their 10 away from home. The last away defeat, was Halifax the last time we backed them to do so. The away form remains horrible. It's a strong home team, a team who would be in the playoff picture if it was purely just down to kind of results on the pitch. And, of course, that Chesterfield result where we're saying the whole players were away on international duty, they didn't have a squad, but it's yet another thing that was against them. They all clubbed together and turned over Chesterfield in that game. Shorter price this time, but we've got the flexibility to do so given our 3 selections so far. This, to me, seems the typical home banker in an Acca selection because everything points, contrasting form.
If you're not careful, the Wealdstone Raider will be knocking on your door very soon.
Do you reckon he's still like...
That would be an honour.
It would.
Is he still kind of knocking around the Wealdstone scene?
Is he still raiding?
Yeah.
He could well be.
Like the crazy frog, the £1 fish man, he had his moment, didn't he? And he's just disappeared and you don't hear much about him anymore.
No.
Probably not doing nightclub appearances anymore.
Yeah,
Cameos, those things you can pay and...
time could be over. Yeah, I like that price. I love taking a home team that's really strong
just
form.
there, actually. I like that price as well. Shall we just get them in?
Get him in then. 4 home team, the 4th home team of this week's Acca. Southend to beat Wealdstone, joining Swansea to beat Huddersfield, Stevenage to beat Port Vale and Crewe to beat Bristol Rovers. The fourfold, 14.2 to 1 pre-boost. We are building what looks like a nice Acca thanks to Crewe there.
Yeah.
Bumping up the value a little bit. Can we make it 5 home teams?
Yeah.
Does anyone want to chuck in another home team?
Another short price. Plymouth at home to Stoke at 2-1.
You know what? When I said Argyle as a bit
it's
of
not
a...
short, is it? But...
when I said Argyle as a mistakenly referring to Swansea thing, I started to think, actually, what price are they to beat Stoke?
Yeah. Well...
I was surprised by this, but then Jim Rod said before that the one team he doesn't go near is Stoke.
No, well, can I shock you?
He's going to go near him this week.
I'm going to go near him. I'm going to oppose him. They were 2-1 as soon, even up to the point that we came down to record the show, but I've been checking while we've recorded and they've shortened to 15-8, 9-5 generally. So that suggests that we're on the right side of value as they're creeping in. I'm on board with them. Do you want to take it away?
You brought it to the table.
Yeah.
But it's just...
Pitch it.
It's just the same old pitch for Plymouth, isn't it? Excellent home team, poor away. Won 5 of the 9 at home in the Championship, and Stoke, just in general, have been really poor away from home. I mean, they lost to QPR in midweek, which takes some doing. I know QPR have got a new manager and maybe turning things around a bit, but
Ender
still.
Stevens was sent off, and that was the deciding, the turning point in that game.
Weren't QPR in front, though, still?
Yeah.
Before he got sent?
I did look at this
2-1
game. It was, I remember it being very, very the cliche 2 halves type game that Stoke were pretty much on top for the first half. It was 1-1 at the time of the red card, of which Stoke then went 2-1 up.
Yeah.
And then they completely collapsed late on. To QPR's credit, they really piled the pressure on late on and did not only get the go-ahead goal, but added a little sweetener at the end as well.
A little sweetener.
A little sweetener at the end.
Yeah, their away process has been poor all season as well, Stoke. It's not like it's a flash in the pan. Conceding more better chances than they're creating. Yeah, for me, it was more of a price play.
Yeah.
Just to throw it in there as a potential... For me, it would either be Plymouth or Crewe in the Acca and maybe look at another short price home team rather than Plymouth and
I was
Crewe?
just thinking then, I've never agreed with you in this studio so much, and then you ruin it by saying we can only have one big time.
No, I'm just saying, like,
I think if you didn't
easy.
look at the price of this game,
Yes.
and you just say, would you take
Yes.
Plymouth to beat Stoke?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I talk to you?
what would the price be if you put them in, just out of interest?
I'll reveal it if we agree. We'll put them in.
Right.
Well,
It could be, it's big. It will be the biggest of the season, unsurprisingly. But not one. It's not one that goes, this is ridiculous. This is one I'd go,
no.
I'd back this at half the price because I just like the look of it.
Go on, you've got a few.
Add you a little bit, but I think we're leaning towards this, you know.
Yeah, so I ain't actually got tons to add about this game. The only thing I want to say is Plymouth conceded late at Coventry, and we was on Coventry's side due to Plymouth's home form, but didn't give a bad account for themselves at all in that game. Unbeaten in their last 3 at home, 2 wins, 1 against Wednesday, which is pretty standard, but a 2-0 win against Sunderland and a 3-3 draw with a Borough side who were very much on the up. The main thing, though, for me is obviously the price. Goes without saying, any bet should be about the price, but Stoke have got 7 players unavailable due to suspension or injury, and 3 of those in particular are key injuries. Ender Stevens, of course, sent off against QPR.
Yep.
Johnson, he's also got suspension. I think that's for an accumulation of yellows, but they've played between them more than 2,000 minutes. Stevens is just under 1,000 minutes this season. Johnson's way over 1,000. So crucial members of that starting 11. Also, he's been out all season, but Lewis Baker's still unavailable. 12 goals and assists last season. Captained them for large parts of that campaign. 44 appearances. Crucial player to that side. And with so many injuries and suspensions, you know what I mean? A great price, a great team at home. I see no reason why this is left out.
While you're talking now, I was looking at Plymouth's home form and the results and what had happened. So Plymouth's defeats at home, Argyle have lost to Swansea and Southampton. That, to me, suggests maybe they have issues against your slower, more patient teams in possession, the teams that are happy to, obviously, as we know, their styles are quite defined. Yet they come up against Blackburn. Norwich, who I'd say are similar to Stoke in playing style a bit this season. They beat Sunderland as well.
They didn't just beat Norwich.
Battered Norwich, didn't they? 6-2.
Whooped them.
Yeah, to me, it feels like you could put Stoke alongside those teams because Swansea and Southampton are on their own kind of in another group of teams. Those are the teams they've struggled to beat against these others. At home, particularly,
You mentioned
the results have been there.
Southampton game. That was. I'm sure
That was it was on television.
That was the early kickoff. Yeah, I was watching that game, and I don't. Che Adams scored a late tap in.
Yeah, it was off set piece as well, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, so I seen off the top of my head, I seem to remember that being a game very much in the balance where it was sort of end to end towards the end, and Southampton nicked it. So, and that was against at the time, 3 games into the season.
Yeah, I think we're talking ourselves into this.
Yeah.
I think don't worry too much about the price. That we're not doing this every single week. This is a bit of a special if we do it. We're not going to go always this wild. But this would be the biggest priced Acca of the season significantly. It's 5 home teams. Crucially, it's 5 home teams I like them. I think, the 2 big price teams in this are Crewe and Plymouth. I would have both of them. Anyway, I'd be backing them to win.
So go on, tell us.
Yeah, I'm dying to know. Tell us the odds.
Does it start with a 3?
No.
4?
Wait. Because I want my quiz question answered first, and then we'll reflect on the Acca. Like any good kind of show, we'd cut to a break at this point. It's like your Emmerdale left on the knife edge suspense. I don't watch any of them, so I don't really know how they know. Just know they're usually quite bad. I'll tell you the Acca and its price very shortly. You tell me first who holds the record for the lowest ever points tally in the Sky Bet Championship. They had 3 managers that season. They found themselves relegated that season on April the 1st. The club have been relegated a total of 4 times from the Championship since the rebrand. And I think it probably looks like they're on the way to a relegation this season.
Rotherham.
That would have been my guess as well.
The 5th one, the season it happened, Alan Stubbs started the season as manager.
Oh, that was pretty recent.
Would it be
1920?
17 they went down then.
You've got Rotherham, so yes. Rotherham 16-17. You've nailed it. 23 points, just 5 wins all season. And the stat I wanted to bring up on that, Sheffield Wednesday are on course for 18.
Yeah. You said that one, so you need to mention it another time.
Sheffield Wednesday are on course for 18. They're going to smash the record if they keep
What points is Sheffield Wednesday on course for?
18, yeah. They're on 7 currently, which is really bad.
That would mean they get the lowest points.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, mate, from a Sheffield United perspective, I wouldn't be bragging too much just because it's the division above.
It's actually...
Derby are on 11.
We are in a great spot, yeah.
Let's work out Sheffield United
double,
for Derby's 11. That's your quiz question answer this week then. Rotherham 16-17. Rotherham actually hold 2 of the bottom 3 spots, I think. The first time they went down, 2005, I think, wasn't too much above it as well. More importantly, though, because I know you're dying to know, this week's Acca, Swansea to beat Huddersfield.
It's going to be daft, isn't it?
Plymouth to beat Stoke. We've got Crewe to beat Bristol Rovers. We've got Stevenage to beat Port Vale. We've got Southend to beat Willesden. Pre-boost, we're on a price of 44.86 to 1. That's going to hopefully be a nice little kicker on that one to get people involved. We won't do this every week, but it's the FA Cup. The results are there.
It's the magic of the
price.
cup,
The prices are there.
If this lands, I think we retire.
We'll probably never do it again if this wins.
Yeah.
But it looks like it could, you know. I just really like these 5 picks, I should say, sorry. And, of course, if you're unsure, your Crewe, your Plymouth, something like that.
Freeze them.
Freeze that early on if they go a goal ahead. Happy with this. We look delighted, don't we? That is this week's Acca.
We have gone proper rogue here.
As ever, though, keep it fun. Never bet more than you can afford, and please gamble responsibly. What do you think of the Acca? Make sure you get in touch with us on social media. Let us know in the YouTube comments as well. We'll read out some of those next week, whether this has heroically triumphed by 3 goals in each or it's collapsed and failed miserably. We want to know what you think of it if you'll be back in it. Which teams would you include? Which teams wouldn't you have had in that final one? And if you're not watching us on YouTube, which you should, you can see our new studio, which is going to keep getting better as the weeks go on. Make sure you get in touch with us on social media. Search Sporting Life Football. You'll be able to find us that way. And head over to sportinglife.com/football to find the link to back that at the enhanced price. And if you haven't already, it's my usual plug to please follow and rate us on iTunes, Spotify, or the cliched chosen podcast provider. We will be back next week.